also a really great way to stay updated and be able to see webinars live because we do live stream everything. Welcome, welcome. We see all kinds of great places that you are coming from to join us today. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. We are recording and live streaming, Brandon. No, not yet. Okay. One more thing I'll share for you in the chat is the slide deck for today, just so that you can also take a look at that. Okay, and here we are. Welcome once again to today's session, which is an intro to SDI within an MTSS for arts educators as part of our NCDPI Arts Education and Learning Differences within the Arts webinars. So we have a series of these that we are working on, and this is just one portion of that. Again, please say hi in the chat, tell us where you're joining us from and what you teach. Just a quick note that we are recording this webinar and posting it to our webinar archive, so you can always watch it again later if you miss anything or you feel like anything goes too fast. You can share with your colleagues as well, or students, those of you who are teaching in the college setting. You can also click on the link in the bit.ly that I just shared with you in the chat. That is our slide deck, and follow along with that or access later if you wish. We've placed a link to our one-pager for you to find all of our helpful pages, which I mentioned includes our Google site homepage, and that's where you can register for any upcoming webinars and find our webinar archive as well. Be sure to make sure that you sign up for our listserv to receive our newsletters in your email and follow our Facebook page for updates. I'd like to take a moment to introduce ourselves to you. My name is Sayward Grindley. I am your dance and visual arts consultant for DPI. My team member is Brandon Rader, your music and theater arts consultant. And he and I work closely together as a team, an arts education team, handling all 4 arts areas. So you can always contact either one of us and we are happy to help you. We are led by our fearless leader, our section chief for social studies and arts education, former theater educator, Dr. Lori Major Carlin. And today we are really excited to be joined by Ginger Cash, the DPI Intervention Consultant, and she will tell you a little bit more about herself during her section of the webinar. We would like to say a special thanks to all of these people listed here, including our breakout room facilitators and a few others who have helped provide resources and ideas for this webinar. Your help and assistance is greatly appreciated and valued. We have a reflection journal for you to use during the session, whether you're watching right now or you're watching this later as a recording. You can click on the link to make a copy to keep with you during the webinar. So make sure when you click on that, it says make a copy and you make an additional copy there. If you're wanting CEUs for watching this recording later, you're going to be required to submit a copy of your reflection journal in order to receive your certificate. You do not have to turn it in if you're attending live, as we have your attendance, but if you are watching this recording later, you will be required to submit your copy of your reflection journal. Be sure to pay attention when you see that icon of Brandon writing in his journal there. That means there's a question corresponding in your journal to go along with that page. And we would like to start our welcoming activity to practice gratitude. So today we'd like for you to, in the chat, answer one of these questions. What are you grateful for in your life, or what are you looking forward to? Take a moment to respond in your reflection journal and or in the chat with us.
I will tell you that after a very restless night, I am very grateful for my coffee. What about you, Sayward?
I am grateful for sunshine. After having so many weeks of rain and gray, this sunshine has really made a big difference.
It's very true. Ginger, what are you feeling today?
I'm just grateful to be part of the arts education webinar today, but definitely looking forward to this sunshine.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got lots of people who are grateful for the sunshine, and several who are Grateful for their second vaccine or shot of the vaccine today. So that's awesome.
Fantastic.
Bird singing, that's always good.
Great. Sunshine, happy to see kids in class again. Yeah.
Awesome.
Grateful for opportunities to work with students, grateful for home and family, grateful for a warm day, grateful for my job. Awesome.
Tomorrow is Friday. That's
Mhm.
fantastic. I
Yeah.
totally forgot, but I'm sure that my children will demand that we listen to the Friday song tomorrow. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. Well, I hope that gave you all the warm fuzzies, like it did for me. We have recently attended a conference for mental health for educators, and we learned that when placed in a positive mood, we are up to 31% more efficient compared to in a neutral mood. So we are priming our brains today by practicing some gratitude for taking in all of this information, because I don't, if you were like me, if you are like I was at the beginning of this process, I found out that in truth I knew nothing about this. So hopefully you will get a plethora of information from Ginger today.
Great. And just a few quick housekeeping things that we do encourage you to have your video on, especially during your breakout rooms, because we find that it helps you to open up and be a little bit more connected. But we completely understand if you don't feel comfortable or feel like you're not in the place right now to have your cameras on. Totally not necessary if that is the case. We are live streamed again, and this will be archived. Please use the chat for any questions that you have, and we will try to address those as we can get to them, especially during the Q&A part. But if you have any before then, we'll keep track of them and go ahead and bring them up when possible. And make sure that you stay muted, except of course, during your breakout room, you can unmute during that time so that you can have an open dialogue. And we are closed captioned so that you can follow along. If for some reason you feel like your sound is not working and you've missed anything, remember that you can always go back and watch the webinar recording later. WebEx, again, is our state mandated program. So this is what we are using. And here's a reminder of your screen and controls so that you can take a look where everything is to find your chat button, your mute, and your video layout features, especially during your breakout rooms, so that you can see everybody on screen at once if you would like to do that. Our agenda today will include some overview of arts education and also SDI within MTSS, and then we will go into breakout rooms as well. Our webinar goals for today include defining SDI, understanding the design and delivery, discussion of equity with high leverage practices, while looking at considerations for subgroups. If you're unsure about what MTSS is, feel free to go back and watch our previous webinar, which was the one we did right before this as an introduction on MTSS for the arts. And it'll be a great refresher for you, or introduction if that's the case. So feel free to go back and watch that one if you need a little bit more background information after we're done with this one, of course. And then really quickly, Brandon is going to start us in a quick poll for you to let us know which breakout session you would like to go into.
All right. So we haven't done a poll in a while. I'm hoping this is working. Sayward, are you seeing the poll?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Beautiful. Everybody who's facilitating a breakout room, if you could please fill out the poll as well, that would be incredibly helpful. And just know that we may end up rearranging some depending on how many people are in here. For example, if we have one elementary theater teacher and 4 high school or secondary theater teachers, we might combine that into one more meaningful conversation. So.
And I did see in the chat right before we went to the polling, what does MTSS even stand for? So I didn't know if Ginger wanted to break off script for a second and give us just a quick, while we're waiting for the poll results to come through, just a quick recap.
Sure. It stands for a multi-tiered system of support. And so North Carolina adopted that as we think about providing services for all students, and it's focused on maximizing the growth for all students using research-based academic and behavioral practices, including social emotional learning.
Great. Thank you, Ginger. And Brandon, how much time do we have?
Well, it says that we have 3.5 minutes left, but I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, which gives 20 more seconds for the last 3 people. Those 3 people, I'll probably just private message them if I don't have an answer for them. So,
Okay, great.
all right. All right. Beautiful. I apologize. This is a new thing for us to do, all of these. So,
Do you need a second? Ginger could go ahead and introduce herself and say hi, even though we'll come back to her.
that sounds great.
Okay, let's do that.
So I am Ginger Cash. I am the intervention consultant for charter schools, and I live under the Exceptional Children's Division. But I am part of a specially designed instruction planning team that's cross-sectional. It includes folks from standards, curriculum, and instruction. It includes folks from the Integrated Academic and Behavior Support System, or our MTSS coordinators may be more familiar with you all. But I live as part of a team, and we provide support through some different, I guess, Canvas courses, technical assistance, and any type of things we can to help teachers and educators in supporting children with disabilities out in the public school system.
Great. Thank you so much, Ginger. All right, Brandon's going to talk a little bit of an overview of arts education in North Carolina.
Wonderful. So we just love to go over this and or some of these statistics to remind us that even when we are the only arts educator who is in our house or our street or our neighborhood, we are not alone in this, because of the 1.55 million public school students who are being served in North Carolina. They belong to 386 public school units across 2,500 public schools and are served in those 4 arts areas by over 7,000 teachers. If you've been waiting for these numbers to change, don't worry. I've been assured that I will have access to this year's numbers by the end of the week. We're really excited to share about the Arts Ed graduation requirement that was made into law in early January, and we are currently working on how to create all of the structures and frameworks that will track students in 100% arts courses starting in grade 6 and ensure that everybody has access to the arts across the entire state. This is just a reminder of our comprehensive arts education framework, which was created by Senate Bill 66 back in 2010, issuing that arts education, arts integration, and arts exposure are all imperative for a student to have a well-rounded arts education experience. And we encourage you to reach out to your regular arts exposure organizations that you might partner with in a regular school year to see if they are offering experiences in the virtual and hybrid learning environment as well, as many of them are doing that. And if you are stumped, please feel free to reach out to Sayward and I, because we have a lot of those organizations reaching out to us and asking how they can connect with educators and students during this time as well. If you haven't seen this, please do come back to it. NCDPI and the Friday Institute created an amazing framework for remote teaching and learning that addresses a lot of the factors beyond just the content and the standards in a very cohesive and coherent way that's very applicable to our current situation. And if you feel the need, you are welcome to share the recommendations for instructional leaders on how to best support their teachers. And you can find that link down at the bottom of the screen as well. Uh-oh, everything is hyperlinked. So if you click on things, you might get taken somewhere else. Just a reminder that our entire North Carolina Department of Public Schools has an initiative to best support teachers and students through social and emotional learning, recognizing that arts education is both a social endeavor and an emotional one. Sayward and I took the lead in the entire department and really ran forward with this. And so we have an interactive castle wheel, which will take you through the 5 core competencies as defined by CASTLE, and take a look at the different ways that we can support each of those competencies in the classroom. There are guidance documents for every single one of the arts disciplines separately. And if you are not an arts teacher, if you know somebody else who's looking for these documents in a different subject area, please know that those exist as well for all other content areas. And then we have several arts ed SEL content specific webinars that exist in our archive. And so there's one that's sort of generic of what in the world SEL and the arts have to do with one another. And then there's one for each of the 4 arts areas. And today, Sayward and I started laying the groundwork for having another round of SEL webinars for teachers to learn more relevant and applicable SEL avenues for both hybrid learning and virtual learning as well. So come back and check these out. And without any further ado, we will get to the main event, which is Ginger.
All right, and so we're going to go ahead and get started here with just an introduction of what SDI is. And so we love this alphabet soup, especially in my world of exceptional children. And so SDI stands for Specially Designed Instruction. So you should be able to hit, I think the first pop-up will happen if you hit click the button.
There we go. I guess I pushed too many times.
No worries. It's all right. All right. So specially designed instruction is about adapting content methodology or the delivery, and it's really around the unique needs of a student with a disability. So right there, just in its definition, is we hold that term of specially designed instruction for those students who have IEPs. So they've got an identified disability. It affects their educational performance. And so they've got some goals, maybe some accommodations that you all see. And we'll show you an example of an IEP in just a minute and what that means to you as an arts educator. But we want to be able to personalize their education or individualize their education by doing that, adapting the content methodology or the delivery. And the intent around this is not to lower the standard or anything, but it's rather to accelerate, kind of close that achievement gap. So these students are typically the students that received lots of support in general education, but it just wasn't enough. And so special education or the specially designed instruction is added on to that. So they keep doing all of these other things and we just add another layer. And the importance of why this has to be within a multi-tiered system of support is just as I was sharing about what that definition is that we want all of our students to be responsive to the education and the instruction that they're receiving. So we use systematic ways and also explicit instruction to try to help them. And it's different from what we're already providing. Again, that whole layering effect. And it is required. We are one of those things that lives under federal law, state law. And so it's very important that we be familiar with what those expectations are and what is specially designed instruction so that we do our duty as educators to make sure we're providing it as it's intended. So why is it important that it lives within this multi-tiered system of support? Why is it important that we're talking about it here with arts education? And so if you want to keep clicking, I think there's some fly-ins here with this as well. But the importance is our students with disabilities spend the majority of their day in general education classrooms. Yours happens to be one of them. There's no special education teacher that's coming into your classroom. They're not there to it's supporting you like in the moment kind of thing. So it's important that we spread and build capacity by sharing this information with all teachers so that you know how to best meet their needs when they're with you all, and that they can get access to your curriculum, to your standards, and that we equip you with what's needed. It also is important to understand that really special education is not a place, it's a service. And it's a service that's provided for all. So in just a moment, we're going to look at an IEP, and there's different responsibilities for each of us within this process, or not process, but within these services. And so we want to make sure that we're equipped and know what we're looking for. All right. So who are we talking about? And again, specially designed instruction is only for those students who have an IEP. Now, what we talk about today, you're going to say, well, Ginger, that sounds a lot like personalized education. And it is. That's afforded to all students in particular, but we hold that term, specially designed instruction, for only those students who have an IEP, and it has to be individualized. Now, who participates in that, like I've already talked about, is a whole group of people. Rather, it's all staff. So it's classroom teachers. That includes your content teachers of language arts, math, social studies, science, but it also includes our arts, music, PE, health. All of us are included. And then you see your exceptional children's teachers, your related service providers. So it's really all of the support personnel that's within your school building. All of those are the who that kind of helps provide that. And so while it is the responsibility of the EC teacher on the design and the delivery, it is the responsibility of all of us to help provide this service and support these students when they're with us, so that they can be able to achieve and access those standards that are set before us. So Brandon, if you want to click on that example of an IEP, I just wanted to take a quick moment of just showing you an IEP. Hopefully you all maybe have seen these before, but this comes from our practice site in particular. So this is completely a false kid. So please don't go out and say, well, she showed us a real student's IEP. This is a kid that I put in a kind of a false setting. It's our practice one. So that's why you see, I think up there at the top, it says training site. But you will see at the very beginning of the IEP has the goals and objectives for that student, where it might give you some information that could be important for you, and you think about how to support that student in your classroom. But if Brandon, if you want to go ahead and move down to page 6 of the IEP, this is where it comes into what is each teacher's responsibility. And it's around the accommodations and modifications that we should be providing for this student. And these were decided based on their unique needs that result from the disability that they were found to be eligible for. And so you can see I tried to make sure there were art, and if you look further on, there's some music. And these were just general ones, but hopefully there's some more individualized ones, and there's specifications that's listed. But this is where you can kind of get an idea of what it is that student's going to need in your classroom to be successful. And it's your responsibility to at least provide at minimum these, but you are definitely afforded to provide other ones as you see fit so that they can have access. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of those practices that we can do further on. But we just wanted to take a moment to give you an idea of what an IEP looks like, and also where should you be looking for some clues or information to help you support that student in your classroom. So if you want to go back to the presentation. All right, so that's where it moves us to, well, what practices work for students with disabilities? I have quite a few in my classroom, and like you said, I don't have a special education teacher in there with me, and I may not be able to see or talk to them on a consistent basis. Well, to help build capacity, the Council for Exceptional Children, along with the Cedar Center, also put together these high leverage practices in special education. And I see Sayward's done dropped a link to the high leverage practices. So if you wanted to kind of click on that in particular, they're grouped into 4 different categories: collaboration, assessment, social, emotional, behavioral practices, as well as instruction. We're going to really focus our attention right now on the instruction ones. And we wanted to point out, when you go to that link, you will see it takes you to our website. And so here are all the high leverage practices in special education. And you are in the right place, Brandon, down there at the bottom. And so I'm going to stop for just a moment, and I just want you to read through those. And if you don't mind, drop it in the chat box. Does any of these sound familiar to you, or are you already using some of these in your classroom? I see provided scaffolding support, flexible grouping, adapting the curriculum and materials. Perfect. See, so a lot of times when I show these, they're like, oh, I know what these are. And so these are already proven to be the high leverage practices that work for students with disabilities. So when we're struggling to find out what we need to do, this is where we should come. We should come to these. These are the ones we should try first, because these are the ones that are proven to assist our students with disabilities. So we're going to look at these in some of our lesson plans here in just a moment. A lot of times these are already embedded in our lesson plans, but how can we take those and really tie them to the unique needs of the disability and possibly even intensify or customize some of these to meet the unique needs of a student with disabilities? And that's what we term as the phrase of specially designed instruction, adapting those curriculum, the content, methodology, and delivery of instruction. All right. And if you want to click on just one of those, Brandon, to show, because in this day and time in remote learning, why I wanted to show that website is if you click on any of those high leverage practices, what we've put together for you all from the Exceptional Children's Division is not only the original high leverage practice, but some considerations for remote learning. So if you're providing some instruction in a remote learning environment, here's some helpful considerations as well as what it might look like down there at the bottom on those 5 categories. So we've put those together. So if you're wondering, hey, how can I do this in remote learning? There's some helpful tips for you to use, and you have full accessibility. It's on our public website there. All right, thank you. So if you want to go back to the presentation. All right, so when we think about that specially designed instruction, and this one's got click-throughs as well, you start with what is your core lesson. We want to make sure we keep the expectation of what the intent of your standards are. And so you start with your core lesson, which may have some of those practices already embedded in it. So that's why we term it as a differentiated core instruction lesson. Then we've got to think about what is that uniqueness of that student's learner profile. So what is their unique needs that result from their disability? What keeps them from accessing what I'm doing for all of the other students? And that's where we customize and we build that specially designed instruction. And so I don't know if we've got time and you want to click on that link up there. There's one example before y'all jump into yours that I'll kind of walk you through, and then you'll get to see a bunch of arts examples. And so I've highlighted already for you all. If you see over there on the left-hand side, that's the original lesson. This happens to be a math lesson, as we have as an example. In just a moment, you'll get to look at one specific to your curriculum. But I've highlighted that it already had some built-in practices that were already over in that high leverage practices in special education: explicit instruction, scaffolding, that flexible grouping, reducing group size, monitoring students, giving them feedback. I've highlighted some of those in yellow. Then when you look at that middle, for this particular class, there is some students or a student that has some difficulty with processing information. And in this particular math lesson, they have difficulty like identifying what they need to do for a word problem and things, and being able to apply the strategy that they know, as well as using the correct approach needed to solve the problem. So over in the specially designed instruction, to meet their unique needs, they simply just added some more additional modeling and practice. That student needed to practice it more. They needed an opportunity to continue to use that vocabulary as part of their disability. Also, they needed some of that scaffolding that you all talked about of needing prompting through the 3 Qs and things like that. So that's how that meets their unique needs. So I tried to kind of highlight those so you can see it's important that we understand that specially designed instruction there is linked back to what we see is what's keeping that child from accessing the current curriculum, because the intent is we keep the expectations and the standards there, and how do we give them access to be able to achieve that standard? And that's where you all help us with that first part around the differentiated core. You tell me the standard, that's what you have the specialty in. I can talk to you from that point of view about the student with a disability, and then together we build the specially designed instruction. And that's exactly the examples you're fixing to see. That's what me and Brandon and Sayward did. And we did that not by meeting every day, because we're just like you, we are slam packed. We did it through Google meetings periodically, talking about the students that you're fixing to see. So these were ones that we did as a collaborative effort. And that's exactly what you're going to get to look at, some more examples specific to your curriculum, and get to kind of dig in deep with those.
Fantastic. So there is a take a moment to respond in your reflection journal if you have a reflection journal. If you do not yet have one, you can scroll back up and find that. But also, if you could check the chat for me really fast. There are 3 individuals that I don't have which breakout room you'd like to be put in. So if you could check the chat and see if you are one of those individuals, so that I can get or put you into one of the groups, that would be fantastic. Thank you so much.
And if you did not get a chance to make a copy, I just linked that one more time. That way you could make a copy of your reflection journal and just kind of take a moment and think about what we have learned so far. Great. And if you did not create a reflection journal, again, I put that link in the chat, but if you'd rather just share something, I see a couple of people are sharing in the chat what you're already getting out of this, and that's fantastic as well. We will go through in just a moment what the breakout process will be like.
All right. So in your breakout rooms, which we will have 7 of them. So all the theater people will be together today. And we will have, or each group has a representative from one of the professional organizations here who can take notes and help guide the process. And so you will be discussing these 4 questions with which Ginger is going to walk us through.
Right. And so just like I showed you in that previous example, you're going to start out by identifying what high leverage practices are already in that core lesson. You all share that you're already using a lot of those. You're going to see those in the ones that you're going to look at in the examples in just a minute. So you can highlight them, identify them, whatever works best. Then I want you to look at how was that possible SDI in addition to, how was it on top of what was already there in your original lesson? So it makes it that they got it on top of. Remember, they can't just achieve with general education alone. They needed something additional. And the other thing I want you to look at is how is that matched to their unique needs that live in that learner profile. And then, like we said, we created these in collaboration, but we realized that this is a continuous improvement process. So we want you to go ahead and add. Is there anything you would add or do differently with these lessons? If we had the chance to probably deliver these lessons, we're going to come back to the table, and there's obviously things we're going to want to change. So you feel free to add that as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Ginger. So hopefully everybody is clear on the directions, and your breakout room facilitator will have those directions as well in case you need to go over any of that again. Here's a look at your breakout room facilitators, and Brandon's going to mention just one more time how this is going to work.
All right. So again, we apologize for any sort of instability here. This is slightly different than Zoom, and this is only the second time we've ever done breakouts, and it's a relatively new feature for WebEx. So hopefully this will go perfect, right? Everybody cross your fingers, your legs and your toes and your arms and everything. But I will hang back just to make sure, or in the main room, just to make sure everything is going fine. And I'm going to hit breakout. And then your facilitators, if you can just direct everybody to the example SDI and let them read through it for a couple minutes before jumping into the questions, that would be fantastic. And feel free to send me any messages if you have any questions. Thanks so much.
Do we want to tell them how much time they have?
Oh, yeah. So we will be coming back together at
4:50.
Yeah, 4:50 should be just fine.
So we
Okay,
have
so you should have
13 minutes.
13 minutes. So yep, that should be great. Thank you. Christina, I wasn't sure which to put you in. Are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry about that. I was trying to find the right
No worries.
chapter, but I'm in visual arts, elementary.
Okay, awesome. Perfect. I will put you right in there right now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Uh-huh. How do I make that happen? Oh, there we go. Awesome. Cool. So yeah, I guess I can put you guys in and out of different sessions if you'd like. So is there a high school or elementary that you'd prefer a subject?
No. I don't have a preference. If you want, I just like to listen. I'm just going to be listening.
You're cool as a cucumber, by the way. Well done there, Brandon.
Oh my gosh, I was full on panicking. So,
No, you are cool. Like, you're like a duck. You may be paddling like mad underneath, but you're cool as a cucumber.
okay, Hayward, that was my fault. I apologize.
Uh-oh. Can you? Okay, thanks.
There we go. Okay. Sweet. Okay. I am going to add you to some of the smaller groups. So, do you want to go together into secondary music? Is that fine?
That's fine. Whatever works. Just swing us wherever you need us to be.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Got it.
That was okay. Do you want me to finish answering that question?
Welcome back, everybody. I hope that that was productive session, and we've got a couple minutes that I thought we could just share out some of the key takeaways. If you chose somebody to speak out for your group, they can go ahead and unmute themselves and just take the stage. And if you didn't, then if the breakout room leader could just or moderator, if you could share out, that would be fantastic. So we'll go ahead and start with dance.
So we ended up combining halfway through, so we didn't get fully through all of it. But I don't know if any of our dance folks want to help share any of this. Do you all want to talk instead of me? We're happy to go through. So some of the high leverage practices we noticed were already having small groups and explicit instructions, scaffolding, and low tech technology, or what did we call that? Assistive and instructional low technology. And then we noticed that the possible SDI was different from the core lesson because they gave a more specific lesson plan or score for the student and his group to follow, rather than the general instruction had a little bit more freedom and it was a little bit looser. So providing that like explicit or specific plan for that group. And they also gave this student a safe spot that was taped off where he could move more safely.
And your student had ADHD.
Yes, correct. So he had trouble sort of regulating his body and really like to move very big, which was really good for him to be in a dance classroom for that purpose, but needed to be able to do it safely without hurting himself or hurting other students. So another way that it matched the unique needs of the student were that the extra space that he was given or space that he was taped off to have gave him a lot of space to work his wiggles out and move larger, since he really liked that larger movement in a safe way. But then when he did things in groups, they had him have a smaller group. That way he could use more of the space without having as many students to work around and share the space with. And then anything that we would do differently or add would be to go into more detail with the original lesson plan. It went through sort of the exercises and the content leading up, and then it got to the point where they were going to create a phrase together, and maybe the lesson plan would go into more detail on how that actually would happen. And then another example was to teach.
I'm actually going to go ahead and cut you off. No offense. We just want to. No, that's good. Is there anybody else who has, it doesn't have to be a summary, just like some really big key takeaways from your group?
Yeah,
just speak out.
Brandon, I'll share a little bit here. We noticed in the elementary music area that the stuff that we can do or that has already been put into the lesson plan can be accessible to all students. So it isn't like we're specifically designing instruction for that student in addition to the instruction. We're doing the instruction with that student in mind. So we're kind of doing I guess you could say a universally designed instruction, but also having that guy or that girl in the back of your mind going, okay, this may not work, so let's have a plan B just in case.
Love it. Love it. Melissa, what were you going to say?
Well, so I was secondary, middle school and high school teachers, and one of the things I have to admit, it's all good, Caitlin, that we kind of got off topic. I'll be like totally off. We got, but it was really wonderful for us to see how information is being distributed to teachers and the inconsistency across our state, where like we have in Wake County, we have ECATs where there's a Google Drive and some are like emailed stuff, but it's not a consistent information explanation of our expectations as teachers and providing the modifications to the students. And so that was really good for us to kind of see that it's not being consistent across schools. It's not being consistent in the way that information, and that's a hard for us, because, you know, I'm saying that, like, I have special education teachers who go through and give us kind of the basics of what we need to make sure that we do, and the other people in the meeting are like, what? And so I feel very, like, lucky to have that, as well as having the ECATs where I can go look up that IEP and look at any modifications that's happened at the last meeting, if it happened yesterday. So I find myself very lucky, and so it would be nice to keep that conversation going. I feel like we could keep talking about that and kind of help problem solve that. So it was a good conversation. It was a really good conversation.
Great, awesome. How about the theater people?
So one of the things that we
It's just
talked about.
Oh, Ginger, I don't know if you can hear us, but you're breaking up.
Oh, sorry.
Start again. Yeah, I think it's better. Maybe. Oh, no.
I'm going to stop my video and see if that helps with my breaking up. Is that better?
Yes.
Much better.
I would encourage, just like Brandon said, he learned so much through this process. Reach out and talk with your special education teacher. If they don't initiate it, you feel free to initiate it too. Email, collaborative Google Docs, whatever means you may have to be able to collaborate. I encourage you to reach out, because it is inconsistent, and I don't think it's intentional of why it's inconsistent. I think it's just the time factor. So we've got to use what we have available, and I encourage you to advocate for some more information if you need it.
Awesome. Ricky?
Just really quickly, we started to talk right at the very end about how the high leverage practices are awesome, but there are also things specific to our content area that we can do. We had a mime in our room, and she talked about using physicalization to help a student with dyslexia connect word to movement, and how that can be specially designed instruction in addition to all of these wonderful resources. So things that we do inherently in our subject can also differentiate as needed.
Awesome. Rebecca, do you have like 30 seconds worth of thoughts before we move on? Sorry to everyone.
Yeah, I don't think we didn't get to really talk about it, because there was a lot of like great examples in there. I think what was really cool, oh, my phone's ringing as I'm doing this. I think that the big takeaway is that a lot of things we're doing already, but just giving a student like written directions to have while you're demonstrating is a big thing, or, you know, just having those materials ready for a student in advance was some of the big takeaways.
Awesome. Thanks. All right. So Ginger.
Yeah, so multi-tier system of support is not intended to be extra, but rather it's being efficient and effective, and that we're all in this together, whether we're an arts education teacher, whether we're a special education teacher, whether we're a content area teacher, it doesn't matter. We're all in it. It's everywhere, and it's what we do. We're trying to help students achieve and close that gap. So we appreciate your ideas and this constant movement. Here is the whole SDI planning team. It's multiple people. You can see it's across different areas. If you want to reach out for further clarification, there's you some folks to reach out to.
We'll go ahead and stick around afterwards for any questions. But if you can type into the chat your next to-do thing. What is the thing that you're going to take away from this webinar and do next? Or what are you excited about starting? If you can write that in your reflection journal, or if you'd like to share it in your chat, that would be awesome. And as you are typing your reflection into the chat, Sayward will be sharing the survey link so that you can receive your CEUs for being here today. Just a reminder that if you are watching the recording, you will need to submit your reflection journal in order to receive your CEUs. And thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Yeah, exciting. High leverage practices are awesome.
Sorry.
Wonderful. Yeah, great. cue cards, getting access to IEPs. I know that that is something that isn't always easy. Awesome. Wonderful. Great. And again, that survey link is in the chat. You can click in the slide deck if you have access or if you opened that earlier. And it's also written there at the end. And we really appreciate you being here with us. Remember that the notes that all of our leaders took in each section are in one document that can be accessed from this link here. And so you can go back to look at everyone else's examples. Every content and area had a student with a different need, and so you are welcome to go back and take a look at those things and reach out if you have any questions. This is being recorded and archived, so if you missed anything or you feel like you want to go back and see anything, you will be able to do so. Tomorrow morning you'll receive an email with all of these links to the slide deck and the survey and the everything. It'll all be there for you. Thank you so much. If anybody has a question, please go ahead and let us know in the chat so that we can go ahead and start or begin to address those questions.
Thank you, Brandon Sayward.
Thank you for being here, Rebecca.
Thank you so much. If anyone has any questions, feel free to let us know in the chat.
And if not, we are officially done, so you are welcome to go.
Hey, Brandon, I'll fill in that chat, that the notes thing in a minute when I get home.
Oh, no worries. That sounds great.